Chosen one, do not ignore this message. You did not arrive here by chance. Something inside you knows this. There is a calling happening right now, and your spirit can feel that something is about to change. For weeks, months, or even years, you have been carrying a weight that no one else sees. You have faced moments where loneliness was your only companion. People who once stood by your side began to disappear. The silence has been deafening. You asked yourself what happened, but you never found a clear answer. And then, in the midst of it all, you looked up to the sky and asked, God, where are you? Perhaps you have felt like your prayers were being ignored, as if your cries had vanished into nothingness. But I need you to listen closely to what I am about to say. God heard every word, and He didn't just hear you. He has already made a decision about your life. Can you feel it? Something inside you knows that change is coming. Something deep, powerful, and transformative. But before this change happens, there is a truth you need to understand. Your season of waiting is over. The loneliness you endured, it was training. The doors that closed, they were divine protection. The people who left, they were removed by God. And now God is about to place you exactly where you were always meant to be. But before everything is revealed, I need you to make a decision. You can either walk away now and continue living in doubt, or you can stay until the end of this message and discover the truth that will change your life. Choose to stay, because what I'm about to tell you may be the answer you have been waiting for. God has already decided, and now everything is about to change. If you feel that this message is speaking directly to you, stay right here. You cannot miss what comes next. Chosen one, you have felt this firsthand. There were moments when you looked around and realized you were alone. People who once walked by your side suddenly distanced themselves. Some left without explanation. Others ignored you when you needed them the most. And then, silence. A silence that weighed on your chest. An emptiness that felt suffocating. And in the middle of this darkness, a question echoed in your mind. Why did God allow this? Why did He let friends, family, even those who promised to always be there, simply disappear? Why, when you needed support the most, did everyone seem so distant? The worst part wasn't the loneliness. The worst part was feeling like you didn't matter to anyone. You tried to understand. You replayed moments in your head. You searched for where you might have gone wrong. But no matter how much you thought about it, the answers never came. And then, a thought began to grow inside you. Did God abandon me too? Maybe you prayed. Maybe you cried in silence, waiting for an answer. But all you found was more silence. You began to wonder if your words were being ignored, if God had forgotten you, if your cries had been in vain. But now you need to listen carefully. God never abandoned you. In fact, He was closer to you than ever. This period of isolation you faced, it was not a mistake. The people who drifted away from you, that was divine protection. The moments when you felt forgotten, they were planned by God to make you stronger. What seemed like rejection was actually a divine realignment. God needed to remove certain people from your path. He needed to distance you from certain places. He closed doors that would not lead you to the destiny He had prepared for you. Remember, God sees what you cannot see. He saw hidden intentions. He heard conversations you never heard. He knew that certain people could not continue on your journey. And that is why He allowed you to go through this phase. But now what you need to understand is that this phase has come to an end. The time of isolation is over. The season of loneliness has passed, and something new is about to begin. If you feel that this message is speaking directly to you, pay close attention to what comes next. Because God has already made His decision. And now everything is about to change. The pain you felt, the nights you cried, the deafening silence, the feeling that no one cared, all of it had a greater purpose. God never abandoned you. On the contrary, He was working behind the scenes, preparing something so great that if He had told you before, you wouldn't have believed it. What seemed like abandonment was in reality a divine separation. God separates before He exalts. He isolates before He reveals. He hides before He manifests His glory. If you look at history, you will see that every chosen one went through this phase before stepping into the purpose that God had for them. Joseph was betrayed by his own brothers. He was thrown into a pit, sold as a slave, and forgotten in prison. But what seemed like injustice was actually God positioning Joseph to rule a nation. David was overlooked by his own family. When Samuel came to anoint a king, David wasn't even considered. But God had already chosen him. Moses was separated in the wilderness for 40 years. He had to be removed from everything he knew before fulfilling his mission to free an entire people. Now understand this. With you, it was no different. The loneliness you felt was not a punishment. It was a sign. God was refining you. He was preparing your mind, strengthening your spirit, and clearing your path. Some connections had to be cut. Some doors had to be closed. God had to remove certain people because they were holding back your growth. And here is the great revelation. He did this because something greater is coming. What you are about to step into cannot be shared with just anyone. God does not want the wrong people sabotaging your blessing. He does not want those without vision trying to stop you from reaching what He has prepared for you. That is why He had to separate you. The process was painful. You felt the rejection, the cold of loneliness. But now the time of restoration has come. Your waiting season is over. And God brought me here to tell you, your new chapter has already begun. Those promises that once seemed distant, they are being fulfilled. The elevation you've been waiting for, it is coming. Those who rejected you, they will witness God lifting you up. Because now everything is about to change. And if you understand this message, stay until the end. Because what comes next is the most important revelation of all. Chosen one, your season of waiting is over. You have gone through the process. You have felt the pain of loneliness. You have carried the weight of God's silence. But now, everything is about to change. God has already made a decision about your life, and when God decides, nothing can stop it. Those who abandoned you will see God exalt you. The doors that were closed are about to open. The dreams that seemed dead are being revived. What was once tears will now be a testimony. You are no longer alone. God is moving in your favor. Can you feel it? Something inside you knows that change is happening. This is not just a positive thought. It is the Spirit of God telling you that the time has come. For so long, you wondered why nothing was happening. You watched others moving forward, receiving blessings, while your life seemed to be at a standstill. But God was already working behind the scenes. He was preparing you. He was shaping you. He was positioning you. And now, what was hidden will be revealed. What seemed forgotten will be restored. Those who doubted you will witness the hand of God upon your life. It doesn't matter how many tried to bring you down. It doesn't matter who tried to close doors for you. If God has decided to lift you up, no rejection can stop you. Joseph was betrayed, but he ruled a nation. David was forgotten, but he became king. What God has for you, no one can take away. Moses spent 40 years in the desert, far from everything and everyone. But God had already determined that he would lead a nation to freedom. Now, it's your turn. Everything that happened was part of the plan. And now, the time has come to see the fulfillment of the promise. God does not do incomplete work. If He started something in your life, He will finish it. The opportunities you thought were lost will be restored. The connections that seemed distant will be rekindled. The abundance that once felt impossible is on its way. And none of this will happen in secret. It will be visible to everyone. The name of God will be glorified through your victory. God has already decided. But now, it's your turn to act. Because when the blessing arrives, you must be ready to receive it. You need to position yourself. You need to strengthen yourself. You need to believe. Doubt can cause someone to lose what God has already prepared. So now I ask you, are you ready? Because this change will not be small. This miracle will not be ordinary. It will be unexpected, extraordinary, and undeniable. And if you feel that this message is for you, stay until the end. Because what comes next could transform everything. You have waited, trusted, and endured. You have gone through moments where everything seemed stagnant, as if nothing was ever going to change. But now, God has already decided. The transformation He has prepared for your life is about to unfold. And when God decides to move, there is no force on earth that can stop Him. But there is something important you need to understand. God can open doors, bring opportunities, and shift circumstances in your favor. But if you are not prepared for it, you could lose what He has already released. Many people receive a blessing but don't know how to sustain it. They receive an opportunity but waste it because they were not spiritually mature enough to handle it. God does not want that to happen to you. That is why He needs you to be ready. The growth that is coming will require a new mindset. The waiting season is over, but to walk in this new season, you will need unwavering faith. Doubt can no longer be part of your journey. Fear must be left behind. What God has prepared is not for those who hesitate, but for those who trust with all their hearts. Perhaps during your time of solitude, you became accustomed to scarcity, to closed doors, to the feeling that nothing would ever work out. But that cycle has ended. Now is the time to think like someone who has already won, like someone who has already been chosen for something greater. You must be ready to receive new people in your life, connections that will be essential for your growth. God is bringing relationships that will strengthen you, alliances that once seemed impossible. But if you continue carrying the fear of rejection and betrayal, you may push away the very people He is sending to you. You must also be prepared for financial blessings. God does not bless a person just so they can enjoy it alone. The provision He is bringing into your life has a greater purpose. You are meant to be a channel of blessing, someone who transforms not only your own reality but the lives of many around you. The time for mourning is over. The time for looking back and questioning what happened no longer makes sense. God is pushing you forward into something completely new. What once was a desert will now be a place of abundance. But you must act as someone who truly believes that. Preparation begins within you. It starts in your mind, in your words, in your attitude. If you truly believe that God has already decreed your transformation, then you must begin to position yourself as someone who is already living in that breakthrough. Those who stay in the past cannot experience the new. Those who hold on to resentment cannot move forward. Those who insist on carrying old wounds have no space to receive the blessings God is sending. Today, you have a choice. You can continue as you are, or you can decide to prepare yourself for the greatest transformation of your life. God has already released it. Now, everything depends on your willingness to receive it. The question is no longer whether God is moving. He has already decided. The real question is, are you ready to step into it? Because the shift has already begun. The choice is now in your hands. You have already sensed that something has changed. The pain of loneliness, the uncertainty about the future, and the feeling of being forgotten no longer have power over you. God has already made His decision, and now everything is in motion. What once seemed stuck, blocked, without a way forward, is now flowing. But there is something you need to understand. Your part in this process is not over yet. When God releases something in someone's life, that person must be ready to sustain that blessing. It is not enough to simply receive it. Many lose what God has given them because they never learned how to manage what they received. God does not want that to happen to you. That is why He needs you to remain aligned with this promise. Your mindset must change completely. You can no longer think like someone who is waiting. Now you must think like someone who has already received, someone who has already been chosen to walk in this new season. This is no longer a time for doubt. It is no longer a time for insecurity. Now is the time for certainty, conviction, and unshakable faith. The people who saw you in your season of loneliness will now see God lifting you up. Those who rejected you will witness your restoration, and it will not be something small, discreet, or temporary. It will be something that everyone will notice because God wants to reveal His glory through your life. But you must be ready. You need to learn how to live in this new reality. Many spend years waiting for an answer, a breakthrough, a change, and when it finally comes, they do not know how to handle it. They have become so used to the wilderness that they do not know how to live in the promised land. You cannot make that mistake. You must strengthen yourself every day, positioning yourself as someone who has already received what God has promised. Your words must change. Your posture must change. Your choices must align with this new season. The past no longer matters. The pain you once carried no longer defines you. What was lost cannot compare to what God is bringing. The door that closed cannot compare to the one He is now opening. The time of struggle has come to an end, and now is the time to walk in the promise. Your waiting season is over. The door that no one could see, God has already opened. What was blocked, God has already released. Now, it is up to you to step into it. If this word speaks to you, write in the comments, "I receive this promise," because God has already decided. And now nothing can stop what He is about to do.